very much for joining our first Provost lecture in the spring 2019. It's our honor and pleasure having a distinguished speaker, very important topic, and responsive audience as well. We have quite reasonable attendance today. The topic of stunting or stunted growth is a standing out topic. I personally came across it a few years ago, and I couldn't believe a few numbers that I knew and learned and read, and I kept inquiring about it. There had been several discussions among dialogue within campus with colleagues and so on, but it seems that we needed a more structured information about stunting and stunted growth by a specialist. So Dr. Hanna Aboulghar have kindly agreed to come to talk to us and illuminate on the topic. Dr. Hanna, there is a lot to be said about her background and her civil society work, her contribution to charity, development, and many other activities. But she is a pediatrician, and she's a professor at the Cairo University, Al-Asr Al-Aini, and a director of Center for Nutrition. This is correct? Of yes. Clinical nutrition, so it's in the heart of her area of research and area of teaching. So thank you very much for being with us, and here you go, Dr. Hanna.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Dr. Ale and Mrs. Heba for organizing this meeting, and all of you for taking the time to be here. Stunting is, it could seem to be a very medical, health-oriented topic, but it does have a great implication on our social and economic future. Through this lecture, I will try to highlight why it does that. Stunting basically means that you are shorter than your potential. Your height is less than your potential when you reach adulthood. Childhood stunting is one of the most significant impediments to human development, according to the WHO 2004 publication. So it's one of the things that impede our development as human societies. During this lecture, I will try to cover these topics. I will try to discuss malnutrition in general, its types, how common it is, the human price of malnutrition, what is stunting and how do we measure it, and who is stunted, why linear growth is so significant. We're so used in our culture to put a lot of weight and importance on a child's weight, and we rarely talk about a child's height. Why we now started putting light on the importance of the height. Who is stunted and why these people are stunted, and what are the consequences on each individual who is stunted. The social and the economic burden of stunting on countries, including countries like Egypt, which is very much affected by this problem. And lastly, I will talk a little bit about hidden hunger, which is the growing nutritional epidemic all over the world, not only in developing countries, but also in developed countries. So let's start by the UNICEF in May 2018 published. ممكن حد يخلي ده ما يقلبش لوحده. The UNICEF in May 2018 stated that nearly half of deaths worldwide under the age of 5 are due to malnutrition. 3 million families all over the world every year lose their children below 5 because they are either getting too little food or not good quality food. Most of these deaths occur indirectly through infections. So these children get infections, mainly in the the chest, the respiratory tract, or diarrheal infections. And thus, malnutrition results in their death, their indirect death. So the Global Nutrition Report in 2017 said that almost every country in the world now faces a serious nutrition-related challenge, whether stemming from undernutrition, getting too little to eat, or overnutrition resulting in obesity with all the consequences of obesity as a disease. They found that the world cannot afford not to act on nutrition. To discuss nutrition, we need to know what we're talking about. Nutritional problems can be related to undernutrition, where you're getting too little food. You're getting too little calories that you need for your growth, or for healing of diseases or wounds, or for the function of your body. Or you're getting too much food that you don't need, that are harmful for you, so you suffer from obesity. Or you have a micronutrient deficiency, so certain vitamins and minerals are not entering your body. You might be getting enough calories, so you are not malnourished. You don't look like you are malnourished, but actually you are. And this is the new term that we call hidden hunger. The child to the right is the classic picture we used to see at Abu Rish Hospital, where I work, the biggest children's hospital in Egypt. It's a part of Cairo University, a faculty of medicine, and we used to see this kind of children every day when I started working 30 years ago. Today, we do not see these children, very rarely, and this is the typical picture of a child with marasmus or with wasting, severe malnourishment due to decreased calories. So they are not getting enough calories. These children feel hungry, okay? The child to the right, I'm sorry, it keeps moving. The child to the left is an obese child. He's eating too much and he's suffering from diseases related to overfeeding with calories. So what is stunting then? Stunting is when the child is not wasted, he is not hungry, but he is not growing well. Why? Because he's getting enough calories, but the quality of calories, the quality of food entering the body is not good enough for his growth or for the function of his cells. The UNICEF published this paper showing a comparison in the number of children worldwide below the age of 5 suffering from the 3 different forms of malnutrition we're discussing today: the wasting, the child who was to the right, the baby who looked very, very thin; obesity, the child who was to the left, the one who was overweight; and the stunted child. The color blue, the columns in the color blue show the difference between the prevalence of stunting in the world in children below 5 in year 2000 and 2017. We are improving in the rates of stunting all over the world. The number of children who are stunted are going down. So are those who are wasted. The number of children who are obese in the purple color to the right are going up. Okay? The problem is that the number of stunted children is going down too slowly. The price is too high. So let's talk a bit more about stunting. Who is stunted and why are they called stunting? Stunting is the impairment of growth and development of the body because the child is getting inadequate nutrition, because the child is having repeated infections during childhood, and because he is inadequately psychosocially stimulated. In other words, this child is neglected. Al-faqr, al-jahl, al-marad. يعمل stunting. Stunting is defined as a height that is more than 2 standard deviations below the norm. Basically, it means that you are shorter than the average for peers at your age who get a fair chance in life. This is in a setup, in a clinic, in a pediatric setup. We will diagnose stunting by measuring the height of this child if he is standing up, or the length if he is lying down, and plotting them on this curve. The curve is available on the WHO website for children for all ages and both genders. The way we got this curve is that we used a big population of children of the same age. We measured their height, and we made sure that these children were having the best chances possible as regard nutrition and care. Then we divided the sum of their heights by their number, and we got the mean. The mean is the green line, the 0 line, okay? Anybody below or above the 0 line is not on the mean, but you are still within normal until you reach the red line. Why this is? It's because there's a range for normality. So there is not a one number for normality, there's a range. But if you cross the -2 standard deviation, then you are considered stunted. You are considered below the acceptable height for your age. The population studied for the WHO was optimally nourished. It was breastfed for 6 months exclusively, and they excluded the lowest socioeconomic status because that would affect the potential for height. This is how we measure children lying down or standing up in our clinics, and this should be done regularly during the first years of life, and it is part of the responsibility of all caregivers. Pediatricians, schools, nurseries should all be aware of their responsibility to measure height and weight of children. So why is linear growth so significant in children? Research has shown that linear growth, more than weight of children, is an indicator of morbidity and mortality. It shows if this child is more at risk of dying early or of being more diseased than other children, other peers. The risk for non-communicable diseases is related to linear growth. Diseases are divided into communicable, infectious diseases, where you can communicate the disease, you are contagious, or non-communicable diseases like heart disease, hypertension, obesity, diabetes. These are all non-communicable diseases, and they are related to linear growth. So if you don't reach your potential in height, you are probably more likely to be obese, to be diabetic, to be hypertensive. So it's also related to the learning capacity and productivity of the person, the cognitive, language, sensory, motor development of the person. The WHO found that in 2014, 162 million children under 5 were stunted. It is an irreversible outcome of poor nutrition and repeated infection during the first 1,000 years of your days of your life. And projections indicate that although we are getting better at dealing with stunting, still in 2025 we expect 127 million children below 5 to be stunted. This is found to be still quite unacceptable. The data for 2018 shows that 1 in 4, around 151 million children were still stunted in 2017. The measures for child undernutrition are used to track the developmental progress of nations. Estimates of child malnutrition help determine whether the world is on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly goal number 2, which is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition. So when we measure linear growth of children, we are actually measuring one of the factors that give us an indicator if we are moving forward in developing or not as a country. So, which community or nation is affected by stunting? And within this nation, which household will be affected by stunting? A community or a society where education and health care are not adequate, where political and economic instability is present, where there is food insecurity, where water and sanitation is not available, and where the societal culture is not, there is little equality, especially gender inequality, and you'll see why this affects stunting. Within the household, inadequate breastfeeding, poor introduction of weaning foods, when you introduce your choice of which food to introduce when you wean children off the breast, the poor quality of food placed on the table, the hygiene within the home, repeated infections, the education of the mother, and the empowerment of the mother within the home have all been found to increase the incidence of stunting. And at the individual level, this person who is affected by stunting during childhood will suffer more sickness, more liable to die early, will not reach full cognitive, language, motor, and academic potential. And as a grown-up, he will probably, or she will be shorter than her peers. She will be more likely to suffer obesity, have more sickness, be academically challenged, have less job opportunities, and more low-paid jobs. This is an important illustration used in many publications related to improving health in developing countries. It shows us the relation between chronic malnutrition, which lowers your immunity, causes you to suffer more chronic diarrhea. Chronic diarrhea will lead you to have a poor appetite and poor absorption through your intestine, which will again lead to chronic malnutrition. So this is a cycle that needs to be broken if you want to improve nutritional status of a community. Here you can see that malnutrition is directly related to the chances for a nation to develop. A poorly developed nation, economically and politically, will have limited health and education systems. Its individuals, including mothers, will be nourished and will give birth to low birth weight children. These children are have a compromised health and a poor academic performance. They enter the labor force with a reduced capacity to work, with difficulty finding well-paid jobs. They are less productive to their country, they have a lower life expectancy, and overall their lifetime earnings are lower than their peers or than their potential, all of which feed back into the chances for this country to develop. The World Bank Group published a policy research note on the economic costs of stunting and how to reduce them. I took a few maps from this report. The first one shows you the stunting rates in 2016 worldwide. The darker the color, the more the incidence of stunting. Egypt in 2016 had an incidence of 21% stunting in children below 5. One of the highest in the world. This is shows the improvement in stunting rates between 95 and 2015. The darker the green, the better you're doing. Alhamdulillah, we are on the green side, we're not orange, but the green is a bit light. We need more effort to be done to combat stunting. This shows the cost of childhood stunting on the workforce. So they looked at adults in the workforce who was stunted, the percentage of people stunted, and we hypothesized that these people have less productivity. In this year, 2017, the stunting among workforce was 37%. So, why and how does it affect our country, affect Egypt? We've already mentioned that stunting is around 21% among children under 5. The Ministry of Health and Population in Egypt in 2015, together with the UNICEF, stated in a report that Egypt is one of the 36 countries where 90% of the global burden of malnutrition falls. This is directly because of stunting and not because of wasting, because we have actually combated you remember the picture of the baby who was very, very thin? This is not, we don't see that anymore, but we do see lots of stunting. The double burden of malnutrition, meaning that at the same time, while we do have malnutrition resulting in stunting, we have a very rapid rise in the incidence of obesity and of overweight, which is an equally important nutritional disorder. So we have a double burden of malnutrition. Anemia affects 27% of children under 5, and it affects almost 40% of women in the childbearing period in Egypt. It is one of the highest incidences of anemia in the world. So, research has found that infant feeding practices, which result in stunting, are related to maternal illiteracy, paternal illiteracy, large family size, and lack of exclusive breastfeeding. So combating these 4 will actually help very much in improving stunting. Lastly, I'll touch on hidden hunger. Hidden hunger is basically the fact that the world had a problem of hunger and people complained that they were hungry. So now they are not hungry anymore. They are getting a lot of calories, but they are empty calories. These people are of adequate weight and they are not complaining because they are not hungry. But their cells, their organs are not getting nutrition. So this is what hidden hunger means. It means that the quality of your food is impaired, that you are giving quantity and not quality. And it is mainly because of lack of micronutrients. Micronutrient deficiency is estimated to cause 1 of the 3 million children below 5 dying from malnutrition are dying because micronutrient deficiency. Vitamin A and zinc deficiencies impair the immune system. Zinc deficiency adds to the problem of stunting. Iodine and iron deficits prevent children from reaching their physical and intellectual potential. This is the worldwide prevalence of anemia. Egypt has a very dark color, around more than between 20 and 40% of Egyptians have anemia, mainly iron deficiency anemia. I like this slide, and I use it in most of my presentations. This is a slide where they have developed a unit. It's called Disability Adjusted Life Years. It is a measure of overall disease burden on our society and economy. Roughly, it estimates how many years of life the society loses because of a certain disease, either because this person does not live his life expectancy, he dies prematurely, or he is forced to not live a full life. So he gets off the workforce, or he is not able to have a normal life. The summation of both these numbers is called the DALY, or the Disability Adjusted Life Years, and it is used for any disease, This is a magnificent paper. It shows you a study on 136 countries all over the world where they estimated how many DALYs were lost per country because of a hidden hunger, anemia, vitamin A deficiency, and iron, vitamin A deficiency, and zinc deficiency. So these three together were estimated in these countries, and they calculated the number of DALYs, the number of years lost because of this deficiency. Egypt had 1,000 years lost per 100,000 population. We are a population of 100 million. So we are losing 1 million years every year because we are not eating properly. Developing countries are moving from traditional diets, which are highly processed, energy-dense, micronutrient-poor foods. There is a triple burden, a phenomenon of people are moving, let's say, from eating koshari to buying ho-hos, okay? This is what I mean. And this is publicized as being progressive and being rich and being cool and all these things. Triple burden, a phenomenon of malnutrition, micronutrient deficiency, and obesity. And we actually have a triple burden of malnutrition. In higher income countries, they have double burden. So they have micronutrient deficiency and obesity. So they are not that much better off. Everybody, like the global report says, everybody needs to focus on proper nutrition. Well, it seems a very bleak lecture and things seem very pessimistic, but actually they're not. We have come a long way. We still have a long way to go, but we actually have come a long way taking care of children all over the world. This is a map of child mortality. Which means below 5 years, the number of children that do not hit their 5th birthday out of every 1,000 births per year, okay? This is the year I was born, 1968. And the darker the color, the more children died. So every 1,000 children born in Egypt, 250 children died. And in Sweden, 14.4 children died. Today, 22 children die in Egypt, in Sweden 2.8. I think we've come a long way. We still need to go further, but I think we should be proud. Examples of successful medical interventions that have lowered the below 5 mortality rate are, and we should be very wary of questioning these methods. Vaccination programs. Vaccination programs have saved many lives. ORS, the introduction of oral rehydration solution in the treatment of children dying from dehydration and suffering from diarrhea. The mere introduction of this powder in every home has lowered the infant mortality rate in Egypt drastically and has made diarrheal diseases number 2 in the cause of mortality, not number 1. Okay, the number 1 is now pneumococcal pneumonia. It's the pneumonia caused by a certain bacteria. If we manage to introduce the vaccine for pneumococcal disease, we will lower our infant mortality rate even more, much more. We will save millions of lives over decades. Vitamin A administration is one of the most cost-effective interventions for improving child survival. A child goes to the Ministry of Health at the age of 9 months, is given a capsule that the nurse just pierces a hole in, and the child gets the capsule, and it saves lives. Okay? Egypt now has almost no vitamin A deficiency problem. And it has managed to do that in almost 70% of cases all over the world. If we continue to do these kind of interventions, if we follow the WHO recommendations for vitamin D and iron supplementation, for example, if we increase dietary diversity, if we teach people to eat more diverse, more colorful plates, more sources of food, if we fortify commercial foods, like the fortification of iodized salt, like adding vitamin B and iron and zinc to wheat and flour. If we do these kind of measures, we're actually going to save a lot of money. And if we want to be even more progressive, we should each and every one of us understand where the problem lies. And we go back to this picture, and we would need to stress on the importance of education, of mothers, of fathers, of gender equality, the awareness of breastfeeding, of weaning, of food and water supply, of hygiene, of the choice of nutritious foods, of putting restrictions on the media on what they are allowed to say about nutrition, and of course, economic and social development. I proudly present to you the team that I work with at Cairo University, the Department of Clinical Nutrition, Aboulghar Hospital. These are my colleagues, and I thank you very much for this, for your time.
Thank you very much. That's very informative. Learning a lot more than I knew before. And the floor is open for questions. I don't have too much after you.
I have 2 questions. The first question is a related issue. There is a challenge called the first 1,000 days challenge. And the idea is that the child, 80% of the child mental growth is actually before 2nd year within the first 2 years. But there is a part of it which is during conception, which is the mother, the nutrition of the mother during pregnancy, let alone during breastfeeding the child. So you cannot ignore this part of the equation. This is fair. The second question is, what can we do? I mean, there are some children that are malnutrition because of whatever. Are we doing the right thing? I mean, are we offering them, for example, school food that are proper? I'm not talking about canteen food. I'm talking about food that is given to children in poor areas that is nutrition.
Okay, for the first question, yes, definitely the mother's nutrition is part of the child's nutrition. And that is why, for example, anemia in childbearing period, in women in childbearing period is a big problem. And during conception and all through pregnancy, nutrition of the mother does affect the child. And here comes the importance of gender equality. We know that in a lot of households, the last one to eat is the mother, okay? If you know that, if the family knows that, they might change the way they distribute food within the family, even if they are poor. This is one thing. Also, the education of the parents, the mother and the father, will change the way that they choose what to eat, because the problem is not only poverty. A big problem is illiteracy or too little knowledge about what really is nutritious food. And the food culture in the Egyptian home has changed dramatically. I can tell you that in the clinic at Abu Rish Hospital, when I ask women, did you cook yesterday for lunch? They actually often say they don't cook, and they are losing the skill to cook because the people are not cooking anymore. They are eating dried foods, they are eating ready-made foods, and they feel that is enough because they satisfy their hunger. Okay. The second question. Sorry, can you remind me? School meals are too late. Okay, so by the time the child is at school, this is too late. We need to catch the child before he hits 18 months of age. Okay, so this means that if you are someone who go to the pediatrician regularly, then your pediatrician will do this for you, and he will tell you that, or she will tell you that your child is not long enough, or not weighing enough, and not eating the right things, and this is a big part of a pediatrician's job. But if you're not going to a pediatrician, which is the bigger number of Egyptian children, then you actually should receive this when you take your vaccines. So you have a chance at 2, 4, 6, 9 and months, 12 months and 18 months to be weighed and your height measured and given some information. This is a good chance. We are always using this chance for important things. It is not a lost chance, but the amount of effort put in the nutrition part needs to be increased. And this is a challenge, because when you do that, even at Abu Rish, you will need to tell the mother to do things that are doable. You cannot tell her, this child needs avocado, or this child needs kiwi. You need to solve the problem in a way that is doable. You need to ask what they eat. You might even need to change their habits as adults. So it's a long process.
Thank you, Dr. Hanna, for this lecture or talk. It's very informative. Actually, there was a work over 2 years for stunting, comparing between 5 villages in Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. And unfortunately, the rate was quite high. This was 2 years ago. And the problem that the richer villages were affected more. And this is very important to stress about, because the mother doesn't know what's healthy food. They are shy to ask. So if the doctor said, feed him healthy food, she will say, okay, and leave, but she doesn't know. They need more information and give them exactly what to feed and what amount and how to give that food. Because as you said, now they think that things in the media that packed things like Chipsy and Ho-Hos and those sort of stuffs are more healthy for their babies or children. And because stunting is irreversible, it's challenging. Because if it affects the baby, it is not reversible as losing weight or marasmus or things. And as you asked about the healthy nutrition of the mother, this is very important. And because the mother, even in the Ministry of Health, they give her folic acid during pregnancy, she took the pills and gave it to the father. They found out that she thought it's something to make her more healthy, and she gave the folic acid to the father, to the extent that in the health centers they asked her to take the pills in front of them. So it's very important and it's very challenging. And as you said, we are achieving a lot now, but we have to target that even the more economically better area of Egypt are affected more with stunting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mu'taza. Dr. Mu'taza is a professor of pediatrics at Cairo University, and she was part of this research that she's telling us about. So it's coming firsthand.
Thank you, Doctor, for an informative lecture. I have two questions. The first, you've stated that psychosocial stimulation can cause stunting. When you say psychosocial stimulation and you said neglect, do you mean that neglect, I would neglect to give the proper nutrition for my child? Or you mean that the child can get psychologically or instability, psychologically unstable, that this will affect actually somehow how he takes nutrition or absorbs nutrition or whatever? And my other question is about hypothyroidism. Sometimes it affects linear growth. Would you consider this as stunting or causing stunting, or is it a whole separate issue? Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, neglect is a form of child abuse in which the child is not getting his or her needs of nurturing. Nurturing includes nutrition, but it also includes stimulation, care, love, safety, everything a child is expected to have, and they all affect your growth. So children who are raised in institutions where they get perfect nutrition and health care, but they do not get proper love and care, their brain weight will be less than the brain weight of children who live in normal families where they get love and care and where they are carried and hugged and things like that. So nurturing and includes this part, the psychological part. Hypothyroidism is an organic disorder. Like many other organic disorders, if you get a disease while you are a child and this disease is chronic, it will affect your growth. In this case, you are stunted, but you are stunted because of an organic disorder, and you will not be able to treat it unless you treat the disorder. What we were discussing here is nutritional stunting, a stunting that is preventable. And hypothyroidism is actually one of the preventable organic disorders, and the screening test for hypothyroidism has been going on for decades in Egypt, and it is a very good screening test, and it has saved many lives from handicap.
I had already asked you before the lecture, and you asked me to repeat my question about how can charity organization participate in the elimination, or at least in lowering a percentage of stunting in the population. Mainly the measures are taken by the government. How can they help other than aside from raising awareness?
Well, I would suggest that any NGOs working with children and women can easily measure children. I mean, mothers measure the children on the wall. It's not something difficult as long as you have the charts, and the charts are available for free online on the WHO website. If you educate families, not only women, women and men, on what is nutritious food, what are good foods, why you need to invest in vegetables and fruits and not in the juice packet or whatever they are giving their children. And this is very, very important work. Teaching children about nutrition is a form of helping out. Deeper work needs to be done by much bigger entities. In the end, we're talking about development.
I asked what else other than raising the kids. So you don't think there's another way that
Well, if an NGO concentrates on one community, if you are interested in seeing real deep results, then you will need to invest deeply into a community. So choose a community, even if it's 5 families, even if it's 20 families, and do all the things that were present in the slide with the circle. So invest in their water supply, invest in chances to get a good job, job creation, invest in their education, make sure the children visit the doctor when they need. If you do that, then you will change the lives of the children in these 10 families. But there is so little just few people can do. In the end, this is the policy. It's a policy making.
Relationship between stunting and brain growth or other indicators like EQ, IQ, and like?
Yes, yes. Stunting is directly related to your cognitive abilities and to your academic achievements. Directly related. Yeah. Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay. I have a short medical question.
Yeah.
The gentleman over here was talking about the mother's health. When you say 100 days of the child's life,
1,000.
1,000 days, I mean, sorry. Does this cancel out if the mother has been badly nourished, either undernourished or hidden hunger? Can the child still have a chance of regaining in those 1,000 days, even though, let's say, in the womb he or she didn't get the proper nutrition from the mother?
Yes, to a great extent, there is a chance, unless the undernutrition was very, very severe and caused damage. But yes, during this period, it is a window of opportunity where you can make changes. That's why it's so important.
Hi, thank you so much for your clarification. I just have a question. You have mentioned that stunting is irreversible, but 3 days ago, the Ministry of Health they have launched a campaign in primary school to tackle stunting, and I was wondering according to my understanding, the target for tackling stunting should be pregnant women or women during adolescence to raise their awareness and to take care of that. But I was questioning, like, does there any other way to tackle stunting or improve anything after the 18 months?
To my knowledge, no. I am very curious to know what they are going to do. I'm happy they want to do something. I think that what they might be able to do is to combat anemia. And there was a very good initiative 4 years ago by the Ministry of Economics suggesting a school meal. The introduction of a school meal in Egyptian schools, which would benefit the child nutritionally, but would probably also link the child to the school, so it would have a double benefit. So children would eat, and they would go to school to eat. So two good things, okay? But it never happened.
Does Abu Rish Hospital have any program that we can join in, like people from outside the hospital can help in, to help the underprivileged children that are identified as stunted?
Aboulghar is a tertiary hospital, so it's a referral hospital. So we usually get children in the very, very advanced stages of all diseases. So yes, of course, there's always room to help in Aboulghar, but in a problem like nutrition, like stunting, what you would do would probably be just to save their lives. Okay, but if you really want to stop the problem, then you would need to address it much earlier. So you would need to go to the grassroots, you would need to work with the very poor villages or schools. I would suggest that if people really want to do something, they would introduce a school meal in one school for a whole year and then see what happens. This is something that that could make a big difference for all the children in the school. مثلا يعني.
Thank you very, very much.
Hi. Would you recommend to have in school curriculums health education so can reach all children and mothers as well, so it will be a broader approach?
Oh yes, yes, definitely. And I would recommend that it would be very, very hands-on. I would recommend, what I do in my private clinic is I give the parents a homework that their children need to put a menu, the weekly menu. And then the children need to make a shopping list, and they need to go down and have a budget in their hands. And they use the math that they learned and the food triangle that they learned at school. And then they go into the supermarket and they pick up within the budget, and then nutrition becomes part of your life. It becomes part of your day. You really believe in it. You think about it. You know what you're choosing. I give them a homework to make breakfast for their parents once a week. Every Friday you make breakfast for your parents and you choose healthy food. And this is so simple. It needs nothing. It just needs follow-up and some discussion. It doesn't need any money. They're anyway going to have breakfast. So this kind of intervention, definitely I would recommend it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for all the information and the knowledge that you delivered here at AUC. And would love to have you again, like doing more. Okay, thanks a lot.